On about the 15th of January, 1982, Lodi and Jean, her daughter, came over here yesterday. And Jean had been doing some family research, trying to get some stuff together. She asked me if I'd make a tape of my life, starting way back. It's the first thing that I remember. And other members of the family to go on and put something together here that might be interesting. I don't know hardly how to go about doing this. I got to thinking, I've been here in this house where I'm living now right at 23 years. I thought it'd be good just to take the last 23 years of my dad's life and see where he'd been. I've been right here now for 23 years. It don't seem like too awful long. Of course, I know it has been. I'll take the last 23 years of his life, which will be from about 1902 to 1925. Now, these dates are going to vary. They won't be exact factual as they were, but they'll be close to what happened in those times. And we hear people talk about the good old days and the good old times. I have no fond memories of very much of our life for those 25 years. We lived in ignorance and we lived in poverty. Not that it was anyone's fault, but it's just what the cost of an education can do for you at time. Now, we didn't suffer as we knew it. We didn't hurt. We had no clothes. We didn't have no nothing, you might say, but we lived and we got along. Now, I was gone from home in 1925. I'd been gone several years. I didn't live at home. There just wasn't enough there to take care of everybody. But I'll go back. I'll just say January 1902, which would have been about 3 months after my birth, October 1901. We were over in Oklahoma. At that time, the Indian Territory, but this is before statehood. How we got over there, I don't know. We had been, the folks had come up over around Weatherford and down Hood County and in Tarrant County and in there. That's where, as I understand, the family came from. Now, back prior to that, I have no knowledge of where they came or where they got together or anything very much about it. But I do know that they got together there. Now, in Texas, there was Molly and Ruth and Albert was born. Now, I don't know about Ernest. I've got to check some records here before I can make a complete statement. This is just a brief statement as to who we are, where we came from. I'll get into detail on each individual as I get some stuff put together and probably on a later tape. In January 1902, we were living about 6 miles east of the present town of Marietta, Oklahoma, on Hickory Creek, just right about where the Hickory Creek Resort on Lake Texoma is now. Now then, this is going to be, I'm going to take 23 years now from there. Now, we went from there somehow or another, and when and what year I do not know, because I'm just going to guess it for a while. We went back to West Texas, Scurry County. We were living about 5 miles southwest of the present town of Snyder, Texas. Now, this must have been, we lived there a while. I don't know how long now, maybe a year or two, I don't know. But we lived there, and we attempted to farm there. I don't know what we done, how we done it. But now that was it. That was the place where I began to have a few memories of what happened, where we were, what happened, which I'd have been about, I guess, around 5 years old, 4 or 5. We stayed there, and then we went to row 10, we picked some cotton there, and then I have the blank in my mind as to what happened. But we came back down through the central part of the state. We got back into Whit. Whit is in northwestern Park County. It's a little place over there. Was then, still is. Then we stayed there. That was the year that Marvin was born. All right, we went from there then to the Sullivan place over what we call close to Advance. Now, these were not 10 miles apart, but 10 miles in those days was a long, long way. We stayed on the Sullivan place, as to my remembrance, the best I can recall now, is about 2 to 3 years. That's where Herschel, our hub, was born. Now, We went from there, I believe about 1911 or 12. We moved into Weatherford. Seemed to me like we stayed there. Now, this is, I'm putting some things in here, seem like, for where we go. I don't know how in the world we got all these places crammed into 23 years. This has got me bothered. All right, we stayed in Weatherford. Seemed to me like a couple of winters, maybe a summer too. Then we moved from there north, about 18, 20 miles, over to the Richard place. We named these places after the people that owned the land because we were sharecropper farmers. We never owned nothing ourselves. We made, I suppose, a better crop there. We would have made 40 bales an acre. We could have made 2 bales of cotton because we just didn't have enough space. But there was a lot. That's where Cecil was born. Then we moved to the Allgood place and made a crop there. Now, something happened there. I don't know exactly what it was, but we didn't have a baby that year. Following that and leaving most of the cotton in the field because it wasn't worth anything, we moved into Bridgeport. This is where we began our city life. Now, Bridgeport was a little mining town at that time. There was a brick shop there, brick plant, and some coal mines. Molly met her second husband there. Molly's first husband had died back and prior to that, and she met her second husband, Raymond Barber. Raymond was a good old boy, I always thought. They had problems in later years, but everybody, a lot of people did. But that's where she met him. Well, we stayed there in Bridgeport. It seemed to me like 2 or 3 or 4 years, but we couldn't have been there very long because I'm taking the actual time that jumped from what seemed to be the time. We stayed there for a long time. Then we left there and we moved into Seymour, Texas. This was way out yonder in West Texas. We left Bridgeport, Texas on a train one morning about 10 o'clock. We spent the night in Jacksboro and left right at sundown the next afternoon. We got into Seymour. This is on a train. I wish you could just, it's about 90 miles is what it is. This is our high-speed traveling in those days. We stayed in Seymour. Now, before we went to Seymour, Albert had left. Dad had gone out there, stayed at home some time. He sent for Albert. Albert got up there, and then Albert took off. And before we got out there, we went out there and picked some cotton. I don't know what year it was. It must have been about 1914, 15, somewhere there. So we picked cotton there, and then this is when Albert's trouble showed up. I'll talk about Albert's trouble at a later tape. But he left. He wasn't there. We stayed out there quite, seemed to me like 2 years. I don't know. We run the wagon yard, and we worked around trade horses, and we picked some cotton, went to school, things like that. Then come up and we went to Wichita Falls. And we got into Wichita Falls, and that's where we bought the wagon yard. We operated it, seemed to me like a year or two. How in the world we done all this and what was the actual time, I can't recall. We had this wagon yard, we operated it a while, and went broke in that, and just whatever we could do for a living. I was working first one thing, then another for $1, $2, $3, $4 a week, something like that. Whatever we could get to do, but we were doing it without school. We stayed there, and then about 1915, I think it was, we returned to Oklahoma. All around Marietta, Old Brook, Thackerville, all up and down in there. We lived in there, and mostly between the river and Marietta, around Overbrook and Thackerville. These are 2 little places. They're still there. But there isn't a place for a person to go and be happy, and I'll tell you that right now. But that's where we spent the World War I years. I recall those years very much. Now, there was no such thing as walking up to the line and telling people you wouldn't go hold it. Just got a telephone call there and had to stop, and I'll go on with the tape. Now, through the year World War I year, winding up late 1918, and I shall never forget that morning where I was at the end of that World War I. We got out of there, then Ernest and I, we decided that we was going to bust out. We couldn't live in that part of the country, no way, so we got out and come over there in in 1919, and a man that he knew was going to live on his place, pick cotton, the fall of 1919. That was a big year for lots of farmers. Cotton was worth a lot of money, and there's good crops in places. But they got rained out over in there, and Dad hooked up with Lewis Cummings, who was out looking for picker, and we all moved to Paducah. Now, this is late October 1919 when we got out there. Now, we stayed there on Lewis's place that fall. They stayed. I burned out. I couldn't take it. I had to leave there in the early 1920, and I went into oil fields. That's where I, you might say, stayed. Now, I didn't work in the oil fields. I worked on, I made my mind up to work on automobiles. I liked them, and I think by making that choice, I think I got along about as good as most working people did in their day. I wouldn't offer every time in my life. I seemed to always be able to get a job and draw top money or make top money in that profession. Now, that's not becoming a millionaire very fast, I assure you. Well, now, the folks stayed out there until about 1920 now. When I left, went back 21 division, went back in 22, 23, 24, I got married, went home once. But I was living in this little town, Electra, working there, and I liked it there. They had a lot of friends there, good place, pretty good job. Got married, Irene and I, and we went on over, starting early in 1925. We had one first thing and then another. It was a horrible, horrible year. Ernest got hurt. Elsie got burnt and died. 5.5 months in the hospital, seemed to me like in Fort Worth. No money, no nothing, depending on what could be done. It was an awful, awful, horrible time. And, of course, Dad's health was bad. It wasn't no good. He couldn't do no good out there, that little old place. And I was just barely able to make money there. Now, 1922, 23, 24, long now, Mom told me. 1924 is the year I got married. Now then, 1925, sometime late in the year, when Dad left us. I want just to review these years just a little bit there. Now, this is 23 years of his life. This is when he left us late in the year. I said left. I won't say he was taken. I'll explain that. I can go back into that in another tape in a different way. But he left us. The time he left, Mother was in the hospital in Quanah with that infection in her arm, like to cost her life, and did cripple her for her life. Went home, put him away. Artist in the hospital was Falls. Ruth was down in there somewhere in Parker County. Molly was up in the north somewhere. And Lodi was in Arizona. And it was my first year married, my first child on the way. January 1926. I shall never forget where I stood. And but it didn't hurt me too much. Of course, I've always wanted to be with the family and have a little sort of independent. I wanted to have my own things, of course, but I'm going to take off right here now, right along here. I'm going to stop. I just want to go back and review these last 23 years of his life, compared with the last 23 years that I've been. It just seemed to me like just a short time that we've been here in this house. I thought this would be worth talking about. We lived for 23 years in one place, right here. And I want you to go back now and review where we was at in those 23 years of his life. I have no idea in the world how they ever made a living. I don't know. As I say, I know that due to things like that, I wasn't home too much. I was gone all the last 5, 6, 7 years of my life. I wasn't even there. I'd go on home. I wanted to be there, but I couldn't. I just couldn't live there. There's no way we could make a living there. I had to do something to prepare myself for future. And I think the rest of them did. But I think it's worth thinking about. Right? I'm going to stop now and review this tape up to here. Then I'll go back and add to it at a later date. Back for a few moments. I just went back through this tape. I have no idea in the world how we could do all of that in 23 years. We lived in ignorance. We lived in poverty. There's no question about it. But we were not alone. There were thousands upon thousands of people that lived just like we did. There was no methods of entertainment on what you did yourself. You could get a few weeks through the summer months to a camp meeting somewhere. Everybody enjoy themselves, mess around, sing a little bit, and get together and have a thing. One little comical thing I'll remember, the 3 years we was on the Sullivan place, we got along pretty good. I remember we got an organ. Dad bought an organ, and he brought it home. We lived there in that big house, and Aunt Ellen and Uncle Andy and their family lived over back. They always followed us around quite a bit. And when they came over, Aunt Ellen was going to give a concert, a neighborhood concert there at our house on the organ. You never saw a piece of equipment so badly abused as that organ was that night that Aunt Ellen gave the concert. But I remember that very well. This is something to laugh about. I remember some of our political activities along that time. I remember the Governor O.B. Colquitt, he was not the governor at that time, but he's running for office. He came by and to have a little campaign community out in here, hold it. I'm trying to do this, and here, telephone rings and bothers me. I don't know just exactly where we're at, but as I say, lots of funny things happened in those days. We'd sit around the house. We always go to bed early because we didn't have much of a light, but we get up in the morning, going all the time. Good days, good times. But I can't figure out how in the world we got all of those places and those incidents in 23 years. I just can't do it. And I don't think the rest of them thought that. We went to Oklahoma during World War I when the flu epidemic come along. You didn't have doctors to come to see you every time you got a cold. You didn't have doctors, period. You got sick, that's where you got well. And the flu epidemic come along, I recall very well, about 3 weeks there that I was down. And I thought at 2 o'clock one morning that was it. I closed up. I said goodbye to the family. And let it go, because I had no medical attention whatsoever, only what the neighbors knew, Mama and Dad could give me. And we all had it. It was a tough old time. But I don't know, has it hurt us? Things that are insignificant now. At those times, we didn't pay attention to it. I just don't imagine. I don't know how in the world they fed them people. I just can't. I can't put that together today. What it amount to? Where did we get it? But they tried. I know we had love in the family. I know that, and we had a lot of dissension in the family due to conditions as they were. That's why I would like to stress so much of the education of what kids we've got. It hurts me now to think the way I've done mine, although most of them are doing all right. I didn't give them no education, and I had no education. It's taken me 13 years to get through the 3rd grade of what's called known as a country schoolhouse. And I saw the other kids, the older ones, in front of me, and some followed me, do the same way. But considering all this, I think I have lived in the greatest time in history, this 19th century. I think it's the greatest that ever has been, and I'm sure, although we've got a lot of electronics, we've got a lot of things to come on in future years, we've got a lot to see. But I saw rural electricity, rural telephone, inside plumbing come to the houses, electricity in the houses. I saw the telephone. We'd go use it and call across the country for a bird of money. Then the radio Oh, what a wonderful instrument that was. And the years that I have lived with the radio. Some of the great old programs. Now, this is something I would like to have repeated. I'd like to see Blum and Abner, Phil McGee and Molly, Honey Boy and Sassafras. Many of the old polkas that we looked for. Bob Burns, the Arkansas deal up in there, the old Arkansas boy up in there. And we'd sit around listening to those people, and it was fun. Old Bob Burns, he always had a show on, and it interested me. We don't have it anymore. We've got all the facilities and all the equipment in the world, but we do not have good, clean entertainment. And this is what I think the old rocking chair philosopher in a tape that we have somewhere. Well, folks just not living anymore. We lived in those days. We lived at home. How in the name of God, I've got 4 children through, up and grown, and then 2 added later, and got, I don't know. It has been a problem. It caused lots of trouble. Don't think it didn't. It caused a world of trouble. But I wish that I could have given the education. I didn't. I'll tell anybody today, don't stop at nothing to give your kid an education if you can. If you can't, you just have to can't. I've had, oh gosh, I just think here, about a couple years ago, I left Dallas at 7 o'clock in the morning, went to Lubbock, on to El Paso, picked up a car, turned around, and drove back home at 8 o'clock that night. Over 1,300 miles. I think, now you understand, I flew out by Lubbock on to El Paso and drove a car back. I left one morning, my house, 5 minutes after 12 a.m. when I left my house. I drove to Phoenix, Arizona, swapped cars, and drove back to Globe, Arizona, and went to bed that night. This is some of the fast age I lived in my time. When going back now, the trip from Bridgeport to Seymour, about 90 miles. It took most of 2 days to make it, and we were traveling at that day and time the fastest rate of transportation, which was the train. I lived some good times, I lived some bad times, I lived hard times. But I have, I'm today enjoying my life very much. I won't attempt in this tape. I'm not going to go into take personal details or anything. I'm just going. This is sort of an overall picture of where we've been, where we're at today. A good many of the families are gone. Dad and Mama, Elsie, and Albert, Ernest, and Hub. There's 3 of us left. Cecil, Martin, me. 4 girls are still with us. Thank God they're still with us. We still have all 4 of them. Now they've got their life, and I know sometimes they think that they're paying too much of a price for life, but we still got them, and I know that those precious moments go by and they get to feeling good again. I know if that happens to me. Now, I don't want to blame my dad or my mother for any of the things that I've talked about, the poverty that we had, because that's just the way people lived. We wasn't the only ones. We had known hundreds and hundreds of families. People would get families. Little babies would die without medical attention. Families would go, men would die, 45 and 50 years old. They'd be old, broke people. Malnutrition, no nourishment, no medical care, no nothing. Babies born without the assistance of a doctor. You got sick. I've seen terrible things happen in my memory. They go up, but I've seen some good things happen too. As I say, the good things that come along that we saw, we've enjoyed. I started early in my marriage to try to get something together. I didn't do it for a long, long time. I've been married 25 years before I got a house, you might say, to live in. I wasn't there that long either, but a long time. I made a lot of mistakes during part of my life, and even well after midlife, I made a lot of mistakes. But and I'm not a perfect dude today either, if you don't know something. But I do try. I've got a good family, and my sisters and my surviving brothers are good people, and most all of them are doing all right. They're all doing all right. There's nothing there to fuss about. I felt so good yesterday when Lodi and Jean came by. We put Blackie away here a short time ago. An old boy been in the family about 50 years. We all love Blackie very much. He was Tess's husband. Tess was Molly's first daughter. They're good people. There's the eldest in the family now. And they will be in everybody's family. But that you cannot let it run you down. You've got to stay in. You've got to keep pitching. I don't know what I'm going to put. If I get into this names. Now, Gene will know something about the Baker family. I hate to admit to my ignorance that I've been away and told all people. But I remember some of the Baker. I remember where the Baker schoolhouse was in over there, south of Weatherford. I remember going there with you a time or two when Uncle Harrison was alive. And Uncle Sam lived over in there around Jacksburg. And Uncle Bill, I never was at Uncle Bill's house at one time in his life. But I don't know. There's nothing that I know about the Baker family in the early part of their life. I just don't know nothing about them. They wasn't. I remember living around Uncle Sam and Uncle Bill, and one of Uncle Bill's boys living right over here up there above Mountain Creek Lake now. We always called him Bogus. Bogus. Thurman was his name, but we always called him Bogus. And then the other boy younger than him, I never remember him very much, but I remember Bogus very well, way on back yonder. I don't know him. And there was some more of the boys that Uncle Sam was a great man. He was a good man. He spent all the later years of his life in around Jacksburg and was highly respected. He was a high-ranking Mason in the Masonic Lodge. And Uncle Sam passed. Uncle Bill passed. Now, Uncle Sam Baker was one. So Uncle Harrison Baker. Now, that's brother's half-brother. He lived over in Hood County, Hood County. Had a big family, and Uncle Harrison was a pretty successful sort of a farmer. He done good in his life. He never worried. He educated his children. I can get into those lives, but to get out and say something specific about these families and who they were, where they come, who they married, it'd just be impossible to do. I'm just not that familiar with what went on. I was gone from it too much at the time. I will try to go take each individual family. I'll try to put them on the other side of this, on this tape here somewhere, and try to get into them individually if that'll help. I don't know or how to go about doing it, but I'll see what I can come up with. I might put something in here that'll be helpful, but I'll take that individually. Now today, at this particular time, I don't know if anybody's hurting too bad. Everybody's got their families, everybody's got their problems, everybody's got their jobs and they get along, and I don't know of anybody that's hurting too bad, but it's just part of life as we're living it. As I said, now I've been here 80 years. Just last year I had my 80th birthday. And I don't know, I go back. I'm talking about people that we knew and lived with. And people would die at 50, 55, 60 years old, all broke down, sick, and wore out, and would go. That don't mean that people don't die at those age today. It's something that we just can't understand. That's why young people die today in the early life. I know a lot of people their lives been took, at a very early stage, and had a little thing like it along that, and been a lot more careful than I've been of mine. Go ahead on this tape here for a way to talk about some of these things that we done and what happened back there. We had an awful lot of tragedy, it seemed like, but that happens to everybody. We've had good times. In the last few years, it seemed like we tried to get together at different times to be with each other. And we've got problems that some of us live with today that's we wish was better, but I don't know. We've had a lot of I want to take just to go over each one of the kids' lives just a little bit. I believe it'd be interesting. Maybe, as I remember it, I'll start at the beginning, talk about Molly. Now, Molly got married when we were living on the southern place. Seemed to me like about the second year we was there. She was very young, and she had a child by that was Tess. That was Fred Messer. Fred folks lived up on the hill there from us, and we didn't get along too good with that family. As Albert and Ernest and me, we didn't get along with nobody very much because we interfered with their progress. They just didn't do. But Molly seemed to care a whole lot for Fred, and Fred did her. But Fred died early. He was afflicted with some kind of disease that people suffered with in those days. Fred was buried in Poolville, Texas. Molly come back home to us there when we was living on the place where Cecil was born. Now, this is something that's hard for me to understand. This is a little 3-room house. There was one of the rooms set with a little breezeway going back through to what was the kitchen, and then we had 2 big rooms at the front, and a real small, uncovered porch at the front to step up on. Now, I have an idea, both altogether, there's probably about 300 feet of space in the whole entire house. And if I recall right, when Molly and Tess come home, there was 11 of us living in that little house. Now, you talk about a close family. We was a close family because we just couldn't get apart. We had Dad bought a bunch of cattle. He was a speculator. Dad was a speculator. He was a trader. He get into various things. And the year that he bought those cattle, I think the man that had them knew what was coming. We had a draft. There's nowhere. We had a little well out there where they mowed long 4-inch buckets that we went down there 90 foot deep. And I worked that thing just as fast as I burned it up. Then Ernest and Albert trying to get water up to them cattle. Finally all starved dead and died. And then we left there and moved on to another place. Molly stayed there with us that year, and we stayed with us on to the All-Good place and on into Bridgeport. And she lived with us there some. There's where she met and married Raymond Barber. And I thought it was a good marriage. At that time, they had 3 girls. I had a couple girls. They had 2 girls of their own. They had a little boy. And they moved on into Paducah at a later time. And had a little boy who passed away early. I don't know. I wasn't home at that time. But I know I like to kill Dad when they lost him. But the 2 girls, they already had Tess. She was with them. And the other 2 girls, Ruby and Sybil. And they came on up through, and they lived, got grown, got families of their own. And there was an accident down around Houston, and Sybil got killed. But Ruby stayed to take care of her mother very much today. She's a wonderful, wonderful girl. Tess was just the same. They were very good. good sisters, all of them, and they're good people. They take care and love each other. Molly married. Raymond and Molly separated back a good many years ago. I don't know when it was. Molly married an old boy, Guy. Her last husband, Guy, was a good man. He saw a lot of Molly. They got along good, and they had some good years together. And I guess some problems too. But Guy Mix, M-I-K-S, what we call him, Mix. Then later, Guy passed away. And then sometime later, one of Ruby's, Ruby Herbert passed away. It was Mitchell. Mitchell was a good boy, a good man, a good father, a good family man, a good neighbor. And the back prior to that, Tess had married some 50 years ago. She married Blackie Lawson. I think he had some other name. We always called her Blackie. But they lived up. Blackie passed away here a short time back, as I said, up in the tape. And today she lived up over Starfall. They were close to Ruby and Tess. And they keep each other pretty good company, and they look after each other all right, for which I'm very grateful for them. I'm going to leave Molly here now. I'm going to go to Ruth. I don't know. It seemed to me like Ruth, she got married while we lived on Southern Place, married Jim Carter. Jim was a good old boy. He was a great one. There was a farmer down north of Weatherford. There's that 6-7 miles, and he'd come up, and we'd have a lot of fun. And Jim was liked and accepted in the family very much, and he took Ruth, and they lived back in there a whole lot of time by themselves, back in the old Carter place, about 9 miles north of Weatherford. And there she was pretty well throughout Dad's life. Now, she had a couple of girls, Evie and Fanny. And they'd come on through life. Fanny had a boy of her own, still got a very nice young man today, Carly. He's a good boy. And Fanny and her husband, Talons, they live down there. They got a little compound down in East Texas now with Evie and Ruth and Fanny and their families. And Ruth had been mostly to herself. She didn't follow us around too much after we left Southern Place. But she'd move out once in a while, go back. I think she came up to Oklahoma once. Pretty sure she did. And then Wichita Falls once. But they wound up back down on the farm. And in later years, they moved to West Texas. I guess one of the greatest Christmases that we ever had was right in the big middle of what a lot of people call the Depression. Now, I was asked about depression and good things. Now, I'm like the old rocking chair philosopher. The Depression didn't hurt us a whole lot because we had broke start with and stayed that way all through and on after that. We had, and I guess that after a little educational tour by early 1931, after I'd quit a job and went looking for better things, it's about 4,000 miles around over to Texas. 4 or 5 months, I went back home at work back then. Well, we lived up there. And I remember that in the early 30s, Evie had met Leonard. I don't think they was married at the time, but they were pretty serious. And they all come up to our house at our Christmas. And they brought some chickens and some pies that they had made and cooked up. Ruth could always cook up more stuff than anybody else saw. And the devil over there, they always eat it because it was good. Stayed for about 2 or 3 days, and then a couple of nights, and we just had the time of our life, and nobody had no money. We had a big old house and lots of everything. But I was working in those days when automobiles were there, but we didn't have to make much money because we didn't need no money. We went back on the farm, and her, she lived around there, around Lubbock, and after they moved into town, they lived around Lubbock, and Mesa down there, that's where Jim passed away, and a few years ago, we've come back down in here to East Texas, down there, after Marie Ruth Greenville come down in there, and they've all wound up down there in East Texas now. I'm going to go to Albert from there. I I don't know too much of the history, the early part of Albert, yet I do know where he got his name. He was named after an old Jew over John Albert Weinbrenner. John Weinbrenner. Over in Weatherford. No merchant over there, something they had quite a bit of connections with and business with when Albert was born. And I do know he was born there. I do not know where Molly and Ruth were born. I just don't know. I've got the years that they were born there someplace, but I don't know when. But what year? I mean, where they were. This is going to be something I just can't talk about. These things, these people over there in Parkland, Hood County, down in there, I just don't know too much about that thing. Well, Albert was born there in Weatherford. Now, this is prior to our trip to Oklahoma, to where I was born, and Ernest was born. This is prior to that. He was born in there somewhere around Weatherford. And he stayed with us on up through that, and on through the trip from into Oklahoma to where I was born, back to West Texas then, and then back down to Central Texas, and back into the best place, the best, capital D-E, capital B-U-S, capital D-Busk, okay, the best place. That's where Myers was born. He threw that, and he was on to the southern place, and this trip into Weatherford, back to Cecil's birth and Elder's birth. But soon after Elder's birth, Albert's, but before Albert, we got to the old good place, that's right. When we left the wicked place where Cecil was born, we got over on this farm where the old good place, and it was just a hard year. Cotton was no good, and there was nothing to do with Albert. Was got to be a pretty big boy then, and he just took off, as I had to do later. There just wasn't there's nothing to do. We didn't have a way of making a living, no place to sleep or eat or anything else. It was very, very tough. I don't blame Albert for leaving home. He just didn't have any home to leave, you might say. But he got out, got on his own, and then he went from there. Around that while after we moved into Weatherford, he back in now a time or two, and Dad went to West Texas out to Seymour. He thought he had a connection with the farm out there, and he sent for him to come out, and Albert took off. Now, I'd like to put down here something about his affairs that it's all known about in the family. To me, there was not one bit of stigmatism attached to his trip or his problems out there. The family loved him all through those years. It never did mean a thing. But he got into some problems, and I don't know the details of it. I know what was read and reported in the papers and out of the courts, which part of it no truth to. But I do know he finally wound up in an institution in New Mexico. About 1921, I believe it was. He was supposed to have been out of this trouble. He didn't get out, and he just got disgusted and took off. He went. Now, Albert was gone out of the family for a long, long time. Before he went to what all he done, of course, I have no knowledge of a bit, on just what he later told me. We came back into the family then in 1947, long, long after Dad had passed away. I know 1937, long after Dad passed away in 25, about 12 years there. He left 22, so in about 14, 15 years, we didn't know where he was at. Hold it just a minute. Had a problem here. I had to stop for a second. We'll come back. I'll find out just where he. Anyhow, Albert took off from there, and he's gone. I'd like very much for Dad to have known that. Never did know what happened to Albert. He never did know where he went. But long back, he went around. He got out in California, got a family under another name. Raised his family. In 1937, about October, after we had just came to Dallas, and been there, and one night I had been to town, come back, we lived in a little small couple of rooms over Oak Cliff with his family, and just didn't get along. We just established ourselves in Dallas. Had a radio, and Irene heard something and had Albert's name called. And I got in, she just jumped up and down and told me, and she told me things I knew that she had done something down to show up, because she told me things that they had said that just nobody knew about. Well, after deep investigation, we found out where he was at and what the problem was. And he finally got caught up with using this. He hadn't done anything serious, but he had signed a fictitious name to the government document, and he got the post office trouble in Frisco and in the service in the Navy. But he had quite a life. I don't know anything about it. I can't tell people about it because I don't know about it. Then he finally showed up and had to go serve some time. And he all the way back to went up in Washington, served time, but come back to and finished up his problems there in Santa Fe, like 1937. 1940, he came, he got out and come on back down in here and come on down to Dallas and stayed with us for quite some time. Went back to California, come back to Dallas, married, and another woman, and we never did know the details of the family affairs out there, but we were going to clean some things up. But he wanted to tell me, just prior to his death, he wanted to tell me something about something, what he knew that I knew that something that wasn't cleared up. He told me he don't clear it up with it, but he passed away before we got to it. Well, Albert had 4 boys, I think, 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. And they're good people. They're good people. And his first wife's a good woman. She come to see us. We had a lot of fun. And the other one is not a bad woman. She's a good woman, but I just never did feel like it that she belonged in the family, because I knew there was some problems there wasn't cleared up right. And anyhow, that was Albert. Ernest was quite a character. He worked, he stayed home, I guess, longer than his boys did, and he tried to do things. But now Ernest was very, very late getting married. He was married at 4 years old. And he had a long, hard life, a lonely life. He'd work, and he'd make money, and he'd go here, and he'd give him a jug, and he'd get in trouble, but everybody liked Ernest, and he done a lot for him. He got married late in life and straightened up quite a bit. And I was at Graham and Grayford and over in there, and that's where he lived when he passed away. And he, 1958, I believe it was, 57, 58, when he left us. Now myself, it just seemed like from about the time I was 9 years old, I had to pay my way. In fact, I started picking cotton at 6 years old, and I'd hoe cotton too on the farm. Because you either cut the fish or you cut bait while the other throughout our life. There's no loafing around our house regardless of your age. You had chores to do and a job to do. For some reason, although I lived on the education while I was school to get it, as I said back to me, like about 13 years, getting out of school, work a few months of school, move, go somewhere, 2 or 3 years, take up again. And as best I can understand, I finally got through what they call the 3rd grade in those days, and that was in the little schoolhouse in Seymour, Texas. That was the end of my education. But along about that time, I began to look at myself and look at other people. I had to do something. I didn't know nothing. I couldn't pick cotton. I couldn't depend on somebody else for a life to live. I had to do something. I had to know something. I had some kind of an inclination to be, be an automobile mechanic. I liked those things, and I was always fascinated by them. And thought, well, it would be wonderful to go somewhere. And I started studying in Berkeley. Every chance I'd get, I'd get tangled up with the automobile. And I'd try to work, tear it down, put it back, see if I could make it run. I've done that a long time. Hard study, hard work, and working a long time, many years at low age, to learn what it was all about. And I think I did become one of the top in my profession. I'm sure I did, because I got many rewards for it, and was always able to hold a job and make top money, even again men much more older, bigger families than I had. And that was coming left through the last day I worked. I was always the top earner of the crowd, and for which I'm proud, but not to brag about it. I just applied myself to my work and did it right. Now, this is about the end of me. I was going to go on to the ones that come on after me. Lodi, I don't recall just where Lodi was born or the year. I'm going to get it together, but I don't know right now. She went through, I know, the early West Texas days, back through the Central Texas days. The Whip and the Advance and Weatherford and back to Bridgeport and Seymour, Wichita Falls, that trip back into Oklahoma and out and back to West Texas, and somewhere out there in the early 20s, I don't know just when it was, she married her first husband, the father of her kids, Bill McCain. I a lot of dissension about that somewhere along there. I remember meeting that man one time or two or three, and I always liked Bill. I thought he was a good man. Now, Bill got a disease, and I'm going to say disease. People say it wasn't. They think it's damn unreason, but I know better. It is a disease. He got afflicted with a terrible disease, and there was a lot of trouble out there in their family, as I recall. They left Paducah early and went to Arizona. And, of course, I know nothing about their life together out there. The kids come along, and Lodi worked, and they lived out that Arizona a long, long time. Finally, I think it was about the early 70s that she came back to Texas. But long after they had broke up, Lodi lived a long life by herself. My little boy Tom. Now, Tom was a good old boy. He's a good man. 1966 or 67, Irene and I, the only time I was ever at Lodi's house in her life until she got to one she got down here now was in Arizona. We went out there in 66. We all went up to the canyon, Grand Canyon, and spent a couple of days, 2 or 3 days with her, and I, one of the most wonderful times and trips, I guess, that I ever had in my life. And we enjoyed it. We enjoyed ourselves on that visit, and I just never was able to express myself to the way that I enjoyed myself on that trip. And the trip up to the canyon from place, Safford, I think, was where they live up there. Seemed to be like a couple hundred miles, but the canyon around back. We had a good 3 days, all of us together. We come on back, and lady, Tom passed away, and Lodi moved back to Texas, I believe, in the early 70s, now as I remember it, where she got down here now. Now, Lodi's had a lonely life a whole lot of the time, but she had some good children. Quite a few of them keeps her pretty well busy sometimes. She's independent because she don't take care of herself, I guess, as long as she does, but she's a pretty good operator. I'm proud of Lodi, and I love her a whole lot. I'm going to leave her there now, and I'm going to go to Marie. I guess Marie went through more hell than any one person is entitled to have to go through with. So he had it. Now, her first husband was a good man, Earl Cheney, father of her kids. I liked Earl. I didn't know a thing about it, go around him much, but I do know he was a good. He got messed up somewhere or other, and they had problems, and they separated. And hold it just a minute. I don't know, Marie and Earl separated way back there somewhere, and she kept close those 4 kids. She had 3 girls and a boy. And the boy Ray had a tragic, very, very tragic death. This is what gets me, a young man, just you might say, coming up in poverty and just getting himself established pretty well to some kind of a living that he could live comfortably at, and a bad thing happened to take his life. That was a hard thing. She went through that. The youngest daughter had some problem, come on, got sick, and she passed away at an early age. And Marie has went through mortal hell, if I must say that, but she stuck it out. She took it. She takes care of herself today, and she living over here. She got an old boy. I don't remember now just when Mac and Marie did get together, but Mac is a good old boy. Everybody in the family likes him, and they live over at Greenville. Now, we'll leave Marie and Mac. We'll go to Marvin. Marvin was very much all his life. Marvin was a kind of an independent. He didn't steal here as many watermelons as me and Herb did. He'd get him something, he'd keep it, he'd take care of it. But Marvin stayed with the family all through it. After Dad's death, as long as he could. Finally got back out there in West Texas, in Paducah. That's where most of them stayed and raised. All the boys all got up and got grown. Marvin met Faye Puckett, a local girl. They got married. They had a good many good years together. They had no children of their own, but they had up with Marlene, and they loved Marlene very, very much. And I don't know, I just can't remember just how long Marlene and Faye was together. They lived together a long time. Faith met her in at an untimely time as a young woman. It's just hard to understand. She's a young Christian woman. Loved her home, loved her family, and loved her community, her town. She's a good worker. She's good. We wasn't close to them, but I know the sort of thing happened. They passed away early. Marvin jumped around a little bit for a year or two, met another woman. I guess they're doing all right. They lived out in Lubbock. And Marvin had been a kind of a salesman pretty well through his years after his war years. He had some years in the war. He didn't not very much there. But he worked in stores, and the first one thing, they got in the store out there in Lubbock now, some guy. They do pretty good, I guess. Now, we'll go ahead. I'd stayed around home, I guess, longer than anybody. He's a little bit older than a couple of them, but he stayed around there in Paducah for pretty well all his adult life. And he met a local girl, Vanita. And God, I can't tell you what Vanita's maiden name was at that time. And I don't know what later, but anyhow, Vanita and I think they were quite a couple. They had a little boy there come along about 1940, I believe it was. When he came along, this Billy Mack, that's the only child. Billy lived in Lubbock now. He got a wife, he had a boy. And Billy, a pretty good boy. He got a pretty good family. He was really living that way himself. Now, I guess I'd take care of her. Cecil, married with Straw Falls, my owner. And then right now I can't think of her name either. They had quite a family. And we've got some good boys. They had 3 boys and 2 girls, best I recall. And they've all done pretty good. Cecil was, he had some hard time the early part of their marriage, but they all did. That's how he finally settled down and got with General Motors. And they're very beginning in Oregon. And they lived out there now for some, I guess, 25, 28 years. And I've been 30 now. It's 25 years, I guess, 27, 28. But Cecil retired sick most of the time and got some problems on. How long will he ever hang on with? He's doing all right with us. Now, of course, LG, as we said now, LG come along and Louis, about 9 years old. He had an accident there in Paducah. Bunch of old cars and some gasoline on him, got a fire and burned. Finally wound up dying in Baylor Hospital in Dallas. I think I said